With Deadpool and Wolverine garnering $1.3 billion for the Walt Disney Company and Marvel Studios, I mean, can you imagine that? One of the greatest successes over at Marvel Studios, and especially for Ryan Reynolds, Shawn Levy, and the rest of the cast and the crew that were involved in this massive project, by the way, that focused on pure entertainment, all because of Ryan Reynolds and Shawn Levy taking a stand against the Disney executives. We talked about this for many months, about how there were a lot of in-studio battles between Ryan, Shawn, Rhett, and Paul, the Big Four, as I like to call them, because they went up against Bob Iger, they went up against the Disney executives, the board of directors, very good negotiators, by the way, made a lot of ultimatums to get this movie made properly, and I really do commend them for that. But what's interesting about this has a lot more to do with Disney CEO Bob Iger really and seemingly turning his back on Ryan Reynolds and creating a lot more issues behind closed doors. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So there's not a doubt in anybody's mind that Deadpool and Wolverine was a subpar film or a mid-movie. I think everyone can agree here that this was a very fun movie. It was a very much grounded film by Ryan Reynolds that just focused on fun, cameos, a tribute to the Fox universe, if you want to call it that. And it really kind of shut the book, or closed the book, on some of those Fox universe characters, which was very much, interesting, because it was basically like the Avengers with Fox-style characters. Now, what's interesting about this has a lot more to do with Ryan Reynolds going up against the Disney heads yet again because of more shenanigans happening by Bob Iger. Not a big shocker there. Bob Iger is the epitome of a flip-flopper, so to speak. But with that being said, with those like Bob Iger and the executives dialing back on their marketing funds for various projects from different divisions, one monumental development going on right now has more to do with Ryan Reynolds at Marvel Studios and the ongoing drama between himself and the executives. Now, a significant update to the situation going on currently involves how Reynolds is already battling the Disney heads after they made a recent decision to use roughly 45% of the revenue made from Deadpool and Wolverine to be applied to other projects that will focus on, get this, diversity, equity, and inclusion. This decision created outrage behind the scenes between Reynolds, Shawn Levy, and the Disney heads, since Reynolds was reportedly specifically promised that all revenue made from Deadpool and Wolverine would be used to invest in future Marvel films that he would be either directing or co-writing that would either feature Deadpool as a character or mutant-related characters, such as those from the X-Men. Now, Disney is reportedly already investing Deadpool and Wolverine gains into the upcoming Snow White 25 reshoots, as well as other upcoming Disney live-action remakes based on animated classics. Reynolds recently put Disney on full blast in a recent remote meeting that took place with the Walt Disney Company that Marvel Studios participated in as well, and the drama was so severe that it rattled throughout the entirety of Marvel Studios. Money made from Deadpool and Wolverine will also be applied and invested into additional upcoming Lucasfilm projects that will focus on Star Wars that will enhance DEI. Regardless of the shakeup between Kathleen Kennedy, and Bob Iger, they are still focusing on their ideology for both Star Wars films and television. Now, the drama even got to a point where Disney CEO Bob Iger blasted Ryan Reynolds for not understanding their agreement, that apparently their agreement did not involve all gains to be used and invested into future Marvel projects, of course free of an agenda. Ryan was also told that the gains would be used for projects shifting away from DEI and to invest further into purely entertaining projects for Marvel fans. Now guys, let me just say one thing about this before I move on. Now, the fact that Bob Iger not only lies to the general public, lies to the shareholders, but he also lies to the creatives, especially those like Ryan Reynolds, who, by the way, just want to focus on entertaining things. They want to focus on, pure entertainment projects that, shift away from DEI or ESG scores or anything like that, and to just focus on what's right for the viewer, what's right for the audience, that's going to keep them coming back for more, essentially. Now, we already talked about this, but Ryan was basically on a mission, he still is, by the way, to essentially fix the MCU. I mean, he's climbing up the ladder, he's trying to at least, to get to the very top of really running the show over at the MCU or Marvel Studios for the MCU. And I think at the same exact time, Bob Iger is that one person getting in the way, making false promises here and there, having one exception here and there, making others believe that Disney's going into change and they're not. You know, like I said before, of course you're going to have exceptions. You're going to have Inside Out 2. You're going to have others out there that are free of an agenda, but then you find yourself seeing all these other projects coming out in 2025, 26, and 27 that will also focus on the typical Disney message yet again. Now, I've talked about this as well, but Bob Iger does plan to step down by 2026. I believe whoever takes his place is not going to be better, it's going to be worse. But let's get into this further. Now, on top of this turned out to be a lie from Bob Iger and the executives, and it's creating outrage from Ryan Reynolds and Shawn Levy, the director of Deadpool and Wolverine, who are set to take part in over 5 whole Marvel projects, just for starters, that they are now challenging and warning Disney of leaving those projects unless they make some serious changes soon behind the scenes. Even Hugh Jackman is standing by Ryan's side to take on the Disney heads over this latest development, as Bob Iger is seemingly investing less in the MCU with the success of Deadpool and Wolverine that Ryan views as very troubling for the MCU, as he is on a mission to save Marvel Studios and the many upcoming films and television programs. Both Iger and the Disney heads turn their back on Ryan, and it's already backfiring on them, as of course we speak, and creating more tensions over at Marvel Studios. So that's the other thing, guys, is the fact that they're using, like I said earlier, roughly 45% of the gains made from Deadpool and Wolverine and applying that to a lot of DEI-driven projects. Now, I think that this is another living example that Disney is not done with the typical messaging. They're not really done with their agenda, so to speak, no matter how many times it may seem that they're beginning to shift away from that, or beginning to make some calls or steps that are shifting away from that. It's nothing more than a dangling of the carrot to kind of bring fans back for a little bit and then turn on them again, is basically what it boils down to. Now, Bob Iger already hired, or is in the process of hiring, a new DEI supervisor, which by the way is going to be paid well over $200,000 a year. We talked about that as well last week. That's another living example that DEI is not fading over at Disney in the coming years. Now, the same exact time, look, I think it's very wrong, the fact that they are using the gains from Deadpool and Wolverine and applying it to basically their messaging projects, right? We talked about this, that this is basically a strategy by Disney behind the scenes to use non-agenda driven projects that would become successful, and they use those gains toward agenda-driven projects. That's basically what Bob Iger's strategy is currently, and why it may give the false appearance that they are beginning to actually quiet down the noise. Alright? So overall, I mean, I think this is a very interesting thing. I would like to hear what everyone has to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.